Hello everyone, I'm here with Tech Motorsports and we're going to be doing some VIN skins on this E46 M2 that we got here. So with the VIN skins, these are not welded in, these are going to be epoxied and riveted, okay? So if you watched my previous videos on a lot of these subframes, they pretty much have been the reddish plates and I've welded them in. So that is the one thing we're going to be doing. Also with the rear subframe, and it's out, we're going to refresh our rear subframe. So that includes the bearings, all the ball joints, the bushings, you name it, it's going to get completely done. And then also we will be, or I will be installing the Vince bar as well. And the Vince bar is going to be epoxied and riveted in place as well. So this will be the first time that I actually do a epoxy and rivet. So kind of curious to see what would be the difference between the welding. Well, I know there a big difference is there's just a lot less welding to do. So so I've taken the time and I've watched some of the practical performance videos on the Vince skin, so I kind of have an idea of how he wants it done and that kind of. So I will be resorting back to those videos as I do the installation. So let's take a look at the actual Vince skins themselves. All right, so here we go. So this one is the right side, and by the right side, it's very easy to identify because he's got the little screws right here, and these screws are for the plastic trim. Sorry, the plastic piece that holds the evap line that goes to the evap section that's underneath the trunk. So this is that side, and as you can see, it is formed very well all the way around. You can see it's got the curvature of the actual spot itself. And you can see all the little rivet holes. There's a lot of rivets we got to end up doing. So so in the videos that I've been watching, he does state that you do have to kind of make sure these are formed correctly. So what you end up doing, you start from a certain side and you get one rivet in place and you kind of smack it with a hammer just to get a good tight firm, because that's the whole key about these skins is it has to be nice and tight. You just don't throw it up there, throw some epoxy on it and call it a day. It's not going to work very well. So this is the rear right, and here is the rear front one. And I bring this one up because of this little tab right here. So on this side right here, on the right side, you technically start getting a crack from there, and this is what the tab is for. It helps to take care of that issue as well. So one of the things too on his videos, it states that if you have a crack inside of this skin, that all you would have to end up doing is just drilling to stop the crack on both ends, and you install this. No welding needed. I was thinking you'd still have to weld it, but I'm going to go his route, and that's how I'm going to end up doing it. So so this just takes a look of the two. What I'm going to be doing is just that. I'm not going to go into the actual rear subframe or any of that stuff. It's just going to be concentrated on the Vince skins, and I don't know if I'm just going to attach the Vince bars there. The Vince bars, I've done that, and there's other videos of the actual Vince bar itself. So I'm probably just going to stick with the actual skins themselves. So the next time you see the clip, the subframe is going to be completely out and the tank's going to be completely out. So I'll have everything there ready to start kind of prepping the whole entire rear subframe for the skins themselves. So stay tuned. Okay, now the subframe is completely out. Also removed the tank, and I went through and cleaned all the dirt and grime out of the areas where the Vince skins are going to go. So with the Vince skins themselves, as I stated earlier, this is the first time me installing these, so it is a learning process for me as well. But what I ended up doing this morning before I started on this car, I went ahead and went back online real quick and looked at his videos, just so I could have his tips and everything freshly on my mind when I do the installation. So probably not a bad idea to do that if you're looking at doing something like this on your own. Now, the Vince skins themselves are only going to repair the actual cracks or the breaks that are within the Vince skins themselves. Now, you still have to go ahead and drill them. That way the cracks are completely, they won't spread anymore, okay? But unfortunately, even with this car that has 76,000 miles, there are other cracks or spot welds that have broken and will break and could be broken that you have to be mindful and look for. So there are a couple spot welds here, or maybe one that I can think of right off the top of my head that is broken, so that has to be welded. So if you're thinking that this is going to be a non-welding installation, unfortunately, I'm going to say 99% of the time you're going to have to weld something. And here is the big one right here. This is pretty much the big section that every single BMW that I've done has had that spot weld cracked right here, or even right here. I think there's one, which is on the back side where you can end up seeing it. And these two panels here, which are sandwiched together and spot welded, they split, and then you start getting moisture in between there. And you could also see that by the seam sealer that is cracking. So let's take a look at the other spot welds and hopefully get started with the actual installation procedure. Okay, so here is where the shot goes. You can see there's the hole up there, and you can see that there is the crack right there on the seam sealer. So that is a good notation that you can see. And then if you come to the back side of it, then you can see I already circled it. That is the broken spot weld right there. And there's another one right in there, but there's so much seam sealer that you can't see it. And if you come all the way around, you can see there's one sitting right over there. That one doesn't look like to be cracked, but we will check that out. And then here's the other crack, of course. And this is the normal spot where they end up cracking. As you can see, I already had drilled my hole. And what I did is I took a black magic marker and followed the crack. And as you can see, I do have an additional hole down here. And what happened was I thought I got to the end of the actual crack. And when I got really close and started using a pick to kind of trace it and just to see where I was at, I found out that I needed to go just a tad bit further. So I took care of that. Now, another spot that you need to look for is around here where the spring perch, where the spring goes in this perch. And look at these spot welds here to see if any of them are broken, and these look to be intact. And then we jump to the front. This is the front right. This is the one you'll get a lot of cracks as well. As you can see, there is the hole that I drilled. That's where the crack goes. It goes around the spot weld and it stops right there. And then on the actual hole itself, you can see where it just starts to go all the way around and goes this way. So those also crack towards here, but this one is not cracked that way. But we do have a spot weld that is broken as well up there on that spring perch, so we'll have to take care of that. So as you can see, 76,000 miles, but yet still we have the crack. So there is the actual skin that I have up there right now. As you can see, I am not using a washer or anything of that sort, because I was just trying to see how they fitted and how they were going to do, how they actually fit up there very well. Like I stated, this one's the more problem child. I actually have about, I want to say a 3/4 inch gap between the actual skin and before it touches the skin. So that one's going to take a little bit of massaging to be able to get that one in place. So let's look into the installation portion. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to do my fitment of all the plates. So I'm going to put the plates up and I'm going to bolt them down to get them right where I want them. And I'm going to outline where that's going to end up being on each plate so that I can remove those and then clean that whole surface here to get any of the seam sealer, any of that stuff off. That way it's going to be bare metal to metal. All right, let's take a look at the front right one. Like I stated, this one didn't fit as nice and flush as the other ones did. But by just tightening it and kind of, hitting it with a hammer, with a rubber mallet, I was able to get it to kind of pretty much right where it needs to be. As you can see, there is still a gap, but also he did state there is going to be a little bit of trimming, which there is going to be. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so this is the best I was able to do. Let's see if this thing will focus, but you could actually get an idea there on the fitment on the upper portion. But also you can see this is where I got to trim around here and just down the edge here as well. And on the back side, you can see, I know that light is probably not helping me out right now. Let me see if I can turn it off real quick. All right, now that the light is off, here's the back section of the front right. and you can see that it's, you know, it's not all that, but there is a pretty big gap right here, which that will have to be massaged a tad bit to be able to get that into place. But yes, the plate's in place. She's completely flat, so that's a plus. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and trace this sucker out. Okay, so now I got the stage one of the cleaning, and that is just removing all the seam sealer and all the paint and everything from the actual chassis itself, where the vent skins go, and you know, showing the bare metal. Now there will be another step that we have to end up doing to roughen them up even more. We'll get to that when right before we start doing the epoxy. So this is the first cleaning of the actual chassis itself. Also got the cross member ones done, so all 4 of them are done. So let's get to the actual you know, placement of the skins, and then bolting them down and start, you know, kind of forming them into shape, so that way I have a good fitment and I have pretty much all my holes drilled, and then that will be set aside and we'll work on the rest, so that way I have all templates ready and fitted, so then I can roughen everything up, the basket of skins and the actual chassis itself, and then apply the epoxy. So let's get to it. Okay, so I got the first skin just up there, so she's just tight, slightly loose, so it's going to be time to keep an eye on this trim here, and also trying to push this plate back towards the chassis itself, and we just tighten her up a little bit. Okay, so she's pretty much flat here, and then I got my plates down in here, and there is going to be a little bit more on the back side that I will have to hit, but like this side on the outer edge, it's actually forming pretty good. It's the inner one that has a little bit of a bigger gap, so that's when I'm going to be able to well, that's the one I'm going to have to go and hammer some more. But what I'm going to do now is kind of work my way from the center, so I'm going to end up grabbing I'm going to start with this section right here. I'm going to grab this one here. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to drill it, and I'm going to put tapping screws in there to hold it and to help me form this in place. So that way I have a nice, good, clean seal all the way around. So I'm going to work my way to this one, then this one, and kind of start going on the outside of it and just see how I can get it to form. And I'll get this section done here. Because the lower section is technically smashed together, I'll worry about that once I get this section here done, and then I could kind of loosen it a little bit and see how this fits here, and then start drilling and tapping that into place. I'm going to tap on this a little bit more with my hammer, and then I'll drill those two, and then put the screws in, and then work on these last two right here. And then this plate is technically done. this will be able to be removed now if I want, but I'll leave it in place. So yeah. All right, so there she is. She's pretty much what I would call halfway installed. I just think you get a better fitment if you do it this way, just by doing the other plates that I've done and having to curve stuff to tack weld or to weld into place. It always works good to work your way from the center out and tap and bend as you go. You can't get this whole thing completely bent into shape with just this one bolt. It's too flimsy, it moves too much. You're not going to get the actual fitment correctly, or the actual shape. So this is a good way to do it. Takes a little bit extra time, but I tell you what, this sucker, I want to say it's watertight, but it's not watertight. But she looks, I mean, there is like no daylight whatsoever all the way around. So I'm really happy about this fitment on this one. Now, like I stated earlier, I'm doing the easiest one, or one of the easiest ones first, just to get an idea how to go about it. I'm going to leave the front right till last, because I want to have a good feel, a good vibe about doing the other two in the back, and then that last one, which I know is probably going to be a little bit more hammering away and a little bit more of just trying to get it nice and tight and snug. So yeah, so I'm going to classify this one as done. I'm going to take my bolt out and I'm going to leave all the screws in place. I'm happy with that. I'm going to do all of them that way, all 4 of them. And then when I get to that point, I'll take them all down, and I will also take a look at the holes while I'm here, just to make sure if there's anything that I need to make them a little bigger. This one was a little bit tight, but it looks like I'm going to get the bolt completely through. So sweet. Everything looks good all the way around, so sweet. Let me get to the next ones. Oh, and I would like to add that the screws that I'm using for this are the hex head. They're number 8s, and the length is 5 and 1/8. It's what I'm using, and it's pretty much right about the same size as the drill bit and the rivet. So there should be no issue at all when you install the rivet. So yep, just wanted to give you that info. Okay, so for the next one, which I'm going to, it's the rear one that I'm doing. This is the left-hand side. So in the kit, you're going to get little square pieces like this. Now, you get 1 per side. One of them is a triangle shape. Oh, not triangle shape, sorry. A square shape, all right, which is going to go here in this slot right here. Okay, so this is going to be the one closest to the center, and the reason why this one is more indented than this one. This one is a little bit more flush, but this one is not. The other side, the right-hand side, is going to have a little corner that's going to be cut off right here. Let me show you real quick. One's going to be cut like that. That's going to go on the opposite side, and it's going to be the deeper indentation one, which I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's going to be the one on the outside, because the one that's closest to the center of the car, that one is just a little, it's a small indentation, but the one all the way on the outside is a deeper indentation. So those with those pieces, do not forget those. What I end up doing is I circled my actual hole that's going to get drilled through. That is what's going to hold this puppy in place. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get this in place, kind of glue it temporarily to be able to get this one. And I'm going to do this rivet first, or this drill, so I can get that in place. Once this is drilled, that I can go ahead and put that aside, and I won't need it again until I get ready to put the epoxy. And when the epoxy's on and all layered in there, I'm sure I can put it on here or on there, because most likely what I'll do is I'll put this on this plate and put the rivet through, and then that'll be my my locating pin. So yeah, so don't forget this little piece here. It's very important, and I'm gonna get plugging away at it. So I'll pick up once technically I have them all four attached. Alright, I'm going to cut this video short, so this will be part 1. It's a little bit longer than the normal ones. So, like always, like and subscribe, and see you in part 2.